Everyone needs to adapt, Natalie stated across the polished mahogany conference table, drumming her perfectly manicured nails against her tablet. Your compensation structure is antiquated. We're reducing base salary by 35% and overhauling the commission framework. My name is Michael Bennett, 54 years old, with silver streaks dark hair that began turning in my 30s. For 17 years, I'd been executive vice president of sales at Cascade Custom Cabinetry, a commercial cabinetry and architectural woodwork manufacturer headquartered in Portland, Oregon. My business card said EVP, but what I actually did was keep revenue flowing. I personally managed our 15 most significant accounts. These weren't merely clients. They were relationships cultivated through countless phone calls, innumerable dinners, and 17 years of anticipating and resolving challenges before they even materialized. I knew their children's names, their preferred fishing spots, their coffee orders. They contacted me before reaching out to their own teams when they needed immediate solutions. The new framework will encourage innovation, Natalie continued, sliding a document across the table. All compensation packages are being recalibrated to reflect current market standards. I glanced at the paperwork. 35% reduction to base salary. Commission restructuring. Even with exceptional growth, it would be impossible to maintain my current earnings. Plus benefit reductions. Natalie Winters had arrived 4 months ago following the acquisition, armed with designer clothes and a Stanford MBA. She devoted her initial weeks to analyzing spreadsheets and conducting private meetings with executives from the new parent company. I understood exactly what she saw when she looked at me. Expensive, old-fashioned, a relic who should have been grateful just to retain employment. Is there a timeline for implementing these changes? I asked, my tone measured. Effective immediately, she replied with a tight smile. We need everyone aligned with our new direction. I closed the folder, stood up, and extended my hand. Thank you for the clarity. Her smile faltered. She'd anticipated resistance, negotiation, perhaps even desperation. Instead, she received a handshake and a composed exit. Later that afternoon, I noticed her observing me from her office as I packed a few personal items into a cardboard box. Nothing dramatic, just a photograph of my twin sons at their college graduation, a handcrafted pin set from a client, an old industry achievement award. On my way out, I nodded to Robert, our chief financial officer. He'd been with me since the beginning. His expression conveyed what his words couldn't. This wasn't merely about reducing expenses. This was about systematically removing me. In the parking lot, I didn't slam doors or rev engines. I simply placed the box in my trunk, adjusted my mirrors, and drove away with 17 years of client relationships that Natalie had just unwittingly handed to the competition. I built that sales organization from the ground up. When I joined Cascade in 2008, we were a regional operation selling $7 million annually. By last year, my team was generating $86 million, with my personal accounts representing over $18 million of that total. My mother operated a small woodworking studio in Eugene, taught me everything about joinery techniques and finishes before I turned 17. After university, I moved between several sales positions until I found Cascade. Something resonated there. I understood the products intimately because I'd grown up around them. I could discuss technical specifications with architects and pricing structures with procurement managers in the same meeting. The founder, Richard Carpenter, recognized my potential. You're not merely selling products, he would say. You're selling reliability. He gave me freedom to develop my department my way. I recruited young, ambitious representatives and taught them what Richard taught me. Relationships matter more than transactions. When Richard sold the company to Vertex Holdings last year, I was concerned but not alarmed. Acquisitions were simply part of business evolution. I'd navigate it like any other transition. The first indications of trouble emerged when they began replacing the leadership team, a new CEO from outside the industry, and a new marketing director determined to revolutionize our digital presence. Then came Natalie, with her polished presentations about operational efficiency and resource optimization. Small changes appeared first. Travel allowances tightened. Client entertainment budgets required multiple approvals. My weekly leadership meetings became monthly, then as needed. We're just streamlining processes, Natalie explained during one of our earlier discussions. Nothing personal. But it was personal. When she began scheduling meetings with my key accounts without including me. When she questioned the pricing agreements I'd negotiated years ago that had maintained client loyalty through multiple cost increases. When she suggested my team needed fresh perspectives and brought in 2 of her former colleagues as new regional directors. Robert attempted to warn me during our quarterly budget review. They're scrutinizing the sales compensation structure, he said quietly, glancing toward the door. Particularly the legacy arrangements. I was the only legacy arrangement remaining. A week before that final meeting, I spotted Natalie having lunch with Andrew, my newest hire. They huddled close, speaking intensely. When they noticed me enter the restaurant, Andrew stared down at his plate while Natalie waved casually, as if encountering me was a pleasant coincidence. Later, Andrew avoided eye contact when I inquired about their lunch. Just getting acquainted with the team, he mumbled. I recognized then what was approaching. Not the specifics, but the trajectory. That evening, after Natalie's announcement, I sat in my home office reviewing sales reports from the past decade. 17 years of consistent growth. 17 years of establishing Cascade Custom Cabinetry as an industry leader. 17 years of loyalty being repaid with a dismissive, "Your compensation structure is antiquated." My phone vibrated. A message from James Calloway, procurement director at Westridge Development, our largest account. Hearing rumors about significant changes at Cascade. Everything okay? Call me. James and I had collaborated for 14 years. I'd helped him through 3 corporate restructures, a challenging health diagnosis, and his daughter's college selection process. We weren't merely business associates. We'd become friends. I poured 2 fingers of scotch and called him. Michael, he answered immediately. What the hell is happening over there? I received a call from some woman claiming she's taking over our account. That would be Natalie Winters, our new sales director. I replied, maintaining a neutral tone. Well, she started discussing, reviewing our pricing structure, and implementing some new vendor management system. James's voice tightened. We have an established contract and processes that function effectively. I don't need someone dictating how to manage my suppliers. I took a slow sip, allowing the silence to extend. Michael, James lowered his voice. Are you staying? Because if you're not, we should talk. At that moment, everything crystallized. My value wasn't in my title or even my sales figures. It was in 17 years of trust. 17 years of resolving issues instead of creating them. 17 years of relationships that could follow me out the door. I'm evaluating my options, I said carefully. Well, evaluate this. If you land elsewhere, contact me first before I have to deal with Stanford Barbie again. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and drafted an email to Alexandra Carter at Summit Architectural Products. We'd connected at an industry conference last year, and she'd mentioned they were planning to expand their commercial cabinetry division. I didn't send it immediately, just saved it to drafts. The next morning, I received calls from 4 more clients, all expressing similar concerns. Natalie was already reaching out, already implementing changes, already disrupting relationships. She fundamentally misunderstood what she was doing. I drove to the office one final time to complete clearing out my desk. As I packed, Robert slipped me a folded document. Your client retention statistics, he said quietly, and their average annual revenue contribution. Thought you might need this. I nodded, understanding what he was actually communicating. He recognized my worth, even if Natalie didn't. That afternoon, I finalized my resignation letter, sent the email to Alexandra at Summit, and contacted my attorney to review my non-compete agreement. I discovered exactly what I had suspected. It applied to products, not clients. I couldn't sell competing cabinetry for 8 months, but nothing prevented me from maintaining my relationships. I no longer felt angry. I felt focused, determined. There's a certain power in being underestimated and dismissed as outdated. It means they never see you coming until it's too late. I spent 3 weeks exploring my options before accepting Alexandra's offer at Summit Architectural Products. The position was ideal, Executive Vice President of Business Development with complete autonomy to build my own division. We value your expertise, Michael, Alexandra said during our final meeting. You understand what succeeds in this industry. We're not looking to reinvent established practices. The following day, I called Natalie to discuss my resignation and transition plan. I proposed staying 2 weeks to ensure a smooth handover of my accounts. That won't be necessary, she said coolly. We've already been communicating with your clients. Andrew will manage the transition. These relationships are nuanced, I explained. There are subtleties to each account that require time too. We have all your notes in the CRM, she interrupted. And frankly, your approach was rather old-fashioned. We're implementing a more data-driven client engagement strategy. I could have objected, but what would be the point? She'd formed her opinion about me the moment she arrived. I'll process your exit documentation, she concluded. Please return all company property by Friday. 3 days later, I met James from Westridge Development for lunch. He hadn't returned Andrew's calls, and Natalie had escalated to his supervisor. Your replacement sent me a client satisfaction questionnaire with 52 questions, James said, shaking his head. Then followed up with a presentation about their new customer success metrics. I don't need metrics. I need someone who comprehends our business. I nodded, but kept my comments balanced. I wouldn't criticize Cascade. Where are you heading next? James asked directly. I'm joining Summit as EVP of Business Development. James raised an eyebrow. Interesting. They've been pursuing our business for years. I sipped my water. I begin in 2 weeks. Well, James said, sliding his business card across the table. Call me when you're settled. The next day, I received a certified letter from Cascade's legal department. It reminded me of my non-compete obligations and warned against any improper solicitation of Cascade clients. The letter specifically listed every major account I'd managed by name. That afternoon, my phone rang. It was Martin Doyle, CEO of Northland Construction, another top-tier client. Michael, what the hell? This new woman is trying to alter our payment terms. Says our account structure requires optimization. We've been on net 60 for a decade. I'm no longer with Cascade. I replied carefully. Yeah, I figured that out when she called. Where have you landed? I provided the basics about Summit. Before I could finish, he interrupted. They handle similar product lines. Comparable, yes. Good. Call me Monday. I want to discuss alternatives. By week's end, I'd received similar calls from 6 more clients. Each conversation followed the identical pattern. Complaints about Natalie's approach, questions about my new position, requests to connect once I started. I hadn't solicited a single client. They were coming to me. On my last official day, Natalie called unexpectedly. I understand you've been in contact with Cascade clients, she said, her voice strained. I've spoken with some individuals, yes. Many of them are personal friends after 17 years. We consider those proprietary business relationships, she said. Any attempt to redirect that business would constitute a violation of your separation agreement. I understand my obligations, I replied evenly. Good, she snapped. Because the last thing you want is a legal battle with Vertex's attorneys. After hanging up, I forwarded the call recording to my lawyer, the same lawyer who'd confirmed that my non-compete only restricted me from selling cabinetry for 8 months. Nothing prevented me from selling other architectural products to those same clients through Summit. Nothing prevented those clients from choosing to follow me. Natalie had just revealed her first genuine concern. She was beginning to comprehend what she'd done by pushing me out the door. My first day at Summit began with a revelation. We've been trying to penetrate Cascade's market for years, Alexandra admitted during our morning meeting. Your predecessor spent 14 months courting Westridge Development without getting past their procurement department. James Calloway doesn't trust easily. I agree, I said. Alexandra leaned forward. Here's what puzzles me. Cascade's client retention rate is nearly 97%, while the industry average hovers around 68%. What's their secret? I almost laughed. Their secret was sitting right across from her. It's not a secret, it's a relationship, I explained. When Richard ran the company, he understood that contracts might retain clients on paper, but relationships keep them loyal when competitors undercut your prices. Alexandra nodded slowly. And the new management doesn't grasp that? The new management sees relationships as inefficient. Natalie wants automated systems, not personal phone calls. Before I could elaborate, my assistant interrupted with an urgent message. Robert, Cascade's CFO, wanted to meet. We arranged to meet at a quiet wine bar downtown after work. Robert looked anxious, continuously glancing over his shoulder as I approached. I shouldn't be here, he said immediately. But you are, I replied, ordering us both a drink. Robert pushed a folder across the table. The board meeting was yesterday. Thought you should see this. Inside was a copy of Natalie's quarterly strategy presentation. The first several pages contained standard projections and marketing initiatives. Then I saw it, client transition strategy, Bennett accounts. The plan detailed how they would transfer my former clients to Andrew and 3 new account managers. It included talking points addressing potential objections about my departure and a relationship reclamation timeline. But what captured my attention were the financial projections showing my clients representing not $18 million in annual revenue, as I'd always estimated, but $23.7 million, nearly 28% of Cascade's total revenue. They never revealed what your portfolio was truly worth, Robert said quietly. Richard knew, but after the acquisition, he shrugged. Why are you showing me this? Robert took a long drink. Because what they're doing isn't right, and because Natalie's already missing forecasts. She told the board it's temporary disruption during transition. But the numbers don't deceive. He tapped the folder. She's already lost Northland, hasn't she? I didn't confirm or deny. Client decisions weren't my responsibility anymore. It's going to deteriorate, Robert continued. She's implementing price increases across all legacy accounts next month. The board approved it based on her analysis that we've been underpricing the market for years. Now I understand. Natalie hadn't merely wanted me gone to reduce my compensation. She'd viewed my client relationships as obstacles to her aggressive revenue strategy. With me removed, she could increase prices, modify terms, and implement new systems that would extract more short-term profit from relationships I'd spent years building. There's something else, Robert added, voice dropping lower. They've been auditing your expense reports going back for years, searching for any irregularities. They won't find any. I know that. But they're constructing a narrative. If clients start departing, they need someone to blame. As Robert left, he hesitated. I'm updating my resume. Just thought you should know. Driving home, I felt strangely calm. I wasn't just learning what Natalie thought of me. I was learning what Cascade had really thought of me all along. My value had been evident in their numbers, but absent from my compensation. They'd been content to benefit from my relationships while quietly planning to extract more profit from them once I was gone. The truth wasn't just that Natalie had underestimated me. It was that Cascade had undervalued me for years. 2 months into my new position at Summit, I had established a rhythm. My office overlooked downtown Portland, and my small but growing team included 3 young sales representatives I'd personally selected. I hadn't directly solicited any of my former clients. I didn't need to. They came to me. First was Martin from Northland, who called the day after Cascade implemented their price increase. That's a 16% hike with no advance notice, he fumed. Can Summit match our original pricing? We could, and we did, while adding value-added services Cascade had never offered. Then came Montclair Properties, followed by Pacific Northwest Builders, then Portland Metropolitan Construction. Each had similar complaints: unexpected price increases, inflexible new policies, impersonal service. By the end of my second month, 5 of my former top accounts had transferred their business to Summit. I ensured each transition was flawless. My team worked evenings to guarantee perfect initial orders. I personally visited construction sites to inspect deliveries. Word spread throughout the industry that following Michael Bennett to Summit meant superior service at better prices. Then my phone rang with a call from Natalie. "We need to talk," she said, her usual confidence replaced with barely concealed anxiety. I agreed to meet at a coffee shop near Summit's office. Natalie arrived 20 minutes early, already working through a cappuccino when I entered. "This has to stop," she said without preamble. "What exactly?" "You know what, poaching our clients." I stirred my coffee. "I haven't solicited a single Cascade client." "Bullshit," she snapped, then caught herself. 5 major accounts have left us in 9 weeks. All of them mentioned you by name. Clients make their own decisions. Natalie leaned forward. We can make this straightforward or difficult, Michael. Straightforward means you back off and we don't pursue legal action for contract violations. There's no violation, I replied calmly. My non-compete prevents me from selling cabinetry for 8 months. Summit's architectural products division doesn't compete directly with Cascade's cabinetry. Her eyes narrowed. You're exploiting a technicality. I'm honoring the precise terms of an agreement your legal team drafted. She paused. The board is asking questions, she admitted, her voice lowering, about client retention, about revenue projections. That sounds like an internal Cascade matter. She tried a different approach. What do you want? A consulting arrangement? A referral fee for leaving certain accounts untouched? I almost laughed. She still didn't comprehend. I'm not interested in arrangements, I said, standing. I'm interested in performing my job effectively. The rest resolves itself. The next day, James from Westridge Development called. Their 3-year contract with Cascade was approaching renewal. We're opening it for competitive bids, he said. Natalie has been contacting me hourly, offering to beat any competitor's price by 7%. That's a generous offer, I acknowledged. Is it? Because I'm considering more than just price, Michael. I need someone who understands our operations. Someone who answers when I call at 8 p.m. when a project is faltering. 2 weeks later, Westridge awarded Summit a 3-year supply contract worth $5.8 million annually. It was a significant achievement, the kind that generates headlines in industry publications. That same day, I received an email from Robert. It contained only a forwarded internal message from Cascade announcing that Natalie was being reassigned to strategic development initiatives while they conducted a search for a new sales director. I didn't reply to Robert or contact anyone at Cascade. I simply forwarded Westridge's signed contract to Alexandra with a note, first of many, planning to secure $25 million in new business by year-end. The wheels were in motion, and Natalie was just beginning to understand the true cost of her miscalculation. 6 months after joining Summit, I stood in the company's conference room, surrounded by my team. On the wall-mounted display was our quarterly performance report, $19.3 million in new business, with projections to hit $28 million by year-end. 9 of my former top clients from Cascade had followed me to Summit. Alexandra entered with a bottle of champagne. The board just approved your division expansion plan, she announced. Additional personnel, increased marketing budget, everything you requested. As glasses were distributed, my phone vibrated with a message from Robert. Cascade Q3 earnings call in 20 minutes. You might want to listen in. I stepped away from the celebration to dial into the call. Cascade's new CEO, William Morgan, sounded strained as he addressed investors. While we anticipated some disruption following our strategic restructuring, sales have underperformed against projections. We've experienced unexpected client attrition in our commercial division. An analyst interrupted. Can you quantify that attrition? We're seeing estimates that Cascade has lost nearly 25% of its annual revenue in the past 2 quarters. Those numbers are speculative, William deflected. We're implementing an aggressive client retention strategy. Is it accurate that your largest account, Westridge Development, recently signed with Summit Architectural Products? Another analyst pressed. The pause was telling. We're in ongoing discussions with all our key accounts, William eventually responded. As the call continued, I received an email from Andrew, my former hire who'd aligned with Natalie. The subject line read, "Any positions available at Summit?" I rejoined the celebration, declining the champagne. Alexandra noticed my expression. "Everything all right? Just received some confirmation," I replied. That afternoon, an industry newsletter broke the story. Cascade Custom Cabinetry struggles after exodus of key accounts. The article specifically mentioned my move to Summit and the subsequent client migration. It quoted an anonymous Cascade employee stating that the company had fundamentally misunderstood the value of its senior sales leadership. I never had to say a word. The numbers spoke for themselves. A year to the day after Natalie told me my compensation structure was antiquated, I sat in my expanded office at Summit reviewing our annual figures. My division had generated $31.5 million in revenue, exceeding even my ambitious projections. My team had grown from 3 sales representatives to 13, with a dedicated client support staff. We'd relocated to a larger floor in the building, and Alexandra had hinted at an executive leadership position opening soon. I kept a photograph on my desk from our division's holiday dinner, faces relaxed, genuine smiles. A team that understood what I'd always known. Business is built on trust. My assistant messaged me. Natalie Winters is here to see you. No appointment. I paused, then nodded. Send her in. Natalie looked different. Less polished, more fatigued. Her designer outfit had been replaced by something considerably more modest. Thank you for seeing me, she said, remaining standing even after I gestured to a chair. What can I do for you? I'm with Meridian Group now, she explained. Management consulting. I was hoping to get your perspective on Summit's approach to client retention for a case study I'm developing. I almost smiled at the irony. I think you already understand my approach. She nodded stiffly. I made a miscalculation at Cascade. You did. The industry is discussing how you dismantle the company without saying a word, she continued. That's a formidable reputation. I didn't respond. Natalie hadn't come for a case study. She'd come seeking validation or reconciliation. I wasn't offering either. After a moment of uncomfortable silence, she placed her business card on my desk. If you ever want to discuss industry trends, I appreciate the offer, I said, standing. But my schedule is completely full these days. After she left, I glanced at the card, then dropped it in the shredder. That evening, I drove to my son's new house for dinner. He'd just been promoted to senior architect at his firm. How's work, Dad? He asked as we sat on his deck. Good, I replied simply. Building something that will endure. And I was, not with wood this time, but with the same principles that had guided my entire career. Do the work. Honor your commitments. Value relationships over transactions. In the end, Natalie had given me an unexpected gift. She'd compelled me to demonstrate to myself and everyone watching exactly what 17 years of trust was truly worth.